Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your girl, Aida Rodriguez, and welcome to another episode of Truth Serum. Truth Serum, where we come have conversations about people of color from our own perspective and giving voices to marginalized groups and then some. First of all, I want to say thank you to all of you who have been supporting the show. We've had some great success as a result of it. And I want to thank you and I want to ask you to keep sharing, keep participating in the conversations. We need you. This is an interactive experience, and I appreciate the way that you show up for us. Today, I am going to have a friend of mine come on, someone who I respect a lot in the business, who is out there doing the work um, as representing Latinx people in the best way by showing up and doing good work, but also off camera, advocating for Black Lives Matter, continuously speaking up for those, the people who are marginalized that belong to us. And it's just important for us to uplift the voices of the people who look like us, sound like us, feel like us, and go out there and represent us daily. You see her on my block, which is where I fell in love with her because I love the show and I love her character. She's my favorite person on that show. I said it publicly. And she's also on a show with my girl Selena's Leiba on the Disney Channel. But if you got a chance to watch How to Get Away with Murder, which I watched from beginning to end, she was also on How to Get Away with Murder, and I just kept wanting more for her. So I want you to, give a warm welcome to my friend Jessica Marie Garcia. Hi, Mama. I can't hear you.
I was.
You were muted.
First of all, I love you so much because I heard all of that, and that was just the sweetest intro in my whole life. And first of all, you are the one doing the work, okay? I'm just here listening because you have already taught me so much in just the short time that we've known each other. So.
Oh no, I appreciate that. We learn. We're always learning. All of us, we teach each other. How are you doing today?
In this moment, I'm okay because I'm talking to you, but it's been, it's been a rough, 4 years almost, but
yeah.
The last few months have been really specifically difficult. And I think that we're all hopefully learning and taking some time to humble ourselves and educate ourselves. And you're doing so much of that. So I appreciate that. But yeah, it's been hard. It's day to day. I feel like sometimes I even get on myself for having like a good time in anything.
Right.
And I took my phone and I'm like, you know what? Look how many people are not having a good time. Like, what the hell am I doing? So it's, it's a balance for everyone.
You have to rejoice, and you have to have your moments of joy so you can recharge and go back out for the fight. And we have to take our victories, and we have to remember to do that, because if we don't, then we will be in sheer misery and then join those who are constantly attacking us, who are miserable people. I watch you all the time, and I've seen you specifically in this moment become very vocal. You led the charge for a lot of people with Black Lives Matter. And when I say Black Lives Matter, because I get attacked all the time by these right-wing nut people that are anti-Black Lives Matter, and they have conflated the organization with the movement. And, everybody that is saying Black Lives Matter is not necessarily affiliated or working with the Black Lives Matter organization or responsible for their fiscal, reportings. When I say Black Lives Matter, I'm speaking surely about Black lives. I'm not talking about an institution and an organization. I want you to tell me, like, how is it that you became so vocal about it? What is it that sparked that for you?
Well, first of all, I'm not a piece of shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm a human and I care about other humans. Like, for me, the fact that this has been going on since the beginning is so fucking baffling to me, I gotta say. And I'm sorry if I curse too much. I got the mouth of a sailor. But no. And then what was really disconcerting to me was how many people with bigger platforms than me or in a position similar to mine that weren't being vocal about it. And that just, it just infuriated me because, I come from immigrants. My mom is from Cuba. And like, I've just heard horror stories my whole life about, pretty much just anybody who's not, white and from here. So it was so baffling to me that we weren't all joining together in this movement, especially when the Black community has been involved in every single one of our movements from the beginning. And it just didn't make sense to me, especially when, as a Latino, like the amount of erasing that we're doing to Afro Latinos is just, it's inexcusable. And right. It's frustrating to me. So to me, I think about my future kids and the generations I want to leave or the legacy I want to leave behind. And it's not that I was silent during this moment, that I just tweeted something during this moment. Like, I just give all the shits. Like, all the shits that you don't give, I give them for you. Like, and that's not completely healthy, but like, I'd rather care. And yeah, I don't, silence is violence, right?
Yeah. No, it's the truth. And so, and I appreciate you saying that about the erasure because, in this moment, in the last couple of days, it's like every day there's a fire, right? And every day we're like going out to put buckets, and then the other fire starts, and we're like, wait a minute, I'm putting out the water. And so we have an issue with the Emmys, right? I was one of the first people to actually speak up about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I was I thought it was very important to speak about the Emmys and the fact that there were no Latinos, but at the same time, celebrate the fact that there were Black people that did get nominated, because I consider that a win for us, right? So I didn't want to position it as, why are Black people getting Emmys and we're not? Because the truth is like we're all fighting for scraps while they feast at the top. And so I wanted to know why Latinos are not being included in this journey. And then it turned into something ugly. And so I haven't seen you online because, we got to take our breaks for our sanity. But, what do you have to say about that and how you feel about it? Because I think it's important for those of you who are working to have a voice in this, because you show up every day for work and you do great work. You were on a list of people who should have gotten nominated, because I saw that list.
I mean, I will always retweet that list. I don't know if I agree, but I'm okay with it. I'm mad at you to include me. No.
But like, you guys show up every day, and I'm writing a TV show right now that is about Latin people and Latinx people. So what do you say about that? How do you feel about it? And where do you see where the void is? Because we have to identify the problem so that we can figure out the solutions.
Well, first of all, I completely agree with you that a win in like the fact that there are so many Black men and women nominated this year is incredible. And we should absolutely take that as a win. And it's important for me, especially as someone who's working, is to always express that, because we are again erasing the fact that like being Latino is an ethnicity. It is not a race. We come from all different shades.
That's right.
We should always support each other. And like, I will never know what it's like to walk in a room and have someone not go, oh, she's Latina.
Right.
How many times with my Afro-Latino friends do people just automatically speak English to them? Just decide that they're not, you know what I mean? Just take away an entire identity because they've decided that based on the way that you look. I will never know that. So for me, I had to speak up because it's like, I just can't see that happen. Like, it's just the right thing to do. And together we have to unite. That's the only way. I feel like united, we're so powerful, but we also have to earn that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's fair to, tell the Black community to just open us, welcome us with open arms when there's just been so much colorism and hate in our community. And I feel like we have to dismantle that at home and in the next generation of kids and the ones that we came from, and put that at home before we can do anything else. But again, representation matters. So if you're just seeing Latinos on TV that look like me or lighter, you're never going to understand that message. Right. So how I try to help is I'm writing Latinx stories. Like I can't wait to be a storyteller, but I also know that these may be voices I want to elevate, but I can't speak for them.
That's
And
right.
that's what's so important. Like, I can't be like, oh, I want an all Afro-Latino cast, and then the writers look like me.
That's
Like,
right.
that's just not ever going. That's why these shows aren't working. And
Yeah.
that's why it's so important for me too, is like, we need to give opportunities to these writers, these executives, these producers, like these directors. And then you're going to see how this representation changes and these narratives can change. But no, it has to come from people that haven't been fighting forever for their lives. And that's me.
That's right. You know what? That's a great point. I mean, I'm in the middle of the fight of my life as I create my show, because the cast of my show ranges from me to Celia Cruz, Black, and everything in between. So for me, I don't want it if I can't have it that way. But as you said, it is also important for me to have Santa Sierra in my writer's room, because she's a dark-skinned Black Latina who also is gay and can speak to some of the stories that I cannot speak to. They can talk about we can do the episode about hair and talk about my daughter in a way that I can't do it, because we don't have the same texture of hair. And I just think that those things are important. And those are the blind spots that Hollywood has sometimes, even when it comes to people who look like you and I. We're always over sexualized, or, we're migrant workers and we're getting beat up, or we're getting spit on and mistreated. And then that carries out into society, because those images project. You have made some very good choices in the way that you and the roles that you portray. How much of that is opportunities that come your way, and how much of it is you curating your career and making the decisions? Because I saw your tweet on Twitter, and I saw you talk about that role that they gave you, that they tried to get you to play.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Talk about things like that. Yeah, that, a lot of those cojones have come in the last few months, to be honest with you. I feel like I've been really lucky. There's only been like maybe a handful of parts that I've been, I've gotten scripts for that I was like, you have to be kidding me.
Right.
Like, specifically, like, even when I got Jasmine, it would be so easy to have just made her a stereotype the whole time. But I was very open with our creators that I was like, I know this girl. This girl exists, and the only reason she exists is because she's built up these walls in order for her to be this character so that you don't hurt her.
Right.
And that was so important for me, and they were completely on board for that. So like, I never felt like I was only a stereotype on My Block. But going into being able to do How to Get Away with Murder and Diary, where I'm literally like, I'm paralegal, I'm a legal student, like, that was so badass. And then the entire room was just people of color. Like, I mean, when Viola walks into a room, like, it.
Right.
And so getting a masterclass with that, and with Viola and then Selenice, like, I've really been blessed. Like, I have to say, there's only been a few times I've said no. But going forward, am I going to be even more picky? Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us your journey. I read your piece about your mother's, your discovery about your journey with regards to your mother. Your mother is from Cuba. Cuba is a communist country. We live in a country that has a mixed economy that includes socialism to capitalism and the spectrum. But people frame the socialism that we talk about in America as being something that's a threat to what's here that might make it what it is in Cuba. And I don't think people really understand what happens in Cuba.
No, they have no idea. Like,
yeah.
No idea. And that's the thing that's so comical, because if you want to know what communist sounds like, it's more like what's happening right now than speaking of socialism. Like, I mean, my mother, even at a young age, was brainwashed in Cuba. When she was arrested, the guards literally went to her, she's 8 years old, and was like, do you believe in God? And she said, yes. And he said, pray to God for candy. And she didn't get candy. And then he said, pray to Fidel for candy. And then he gave it to her. Like, wow. These are things that happen all the time. Like, in a communist country, like, you only get milk if maybe you have an infant. And you are given certain things. Like I have had such a privileged upbringing. And that's literally, from my mom trying to give me everything and, busting her ass to give me everything. But hearing those stories, like, no, that doesn't sound anything like what we're fighting for.
Yeah, no, and I think it's important to say that because when you talk to people from Venezuela and Cuba who are traumatized and are moved emotionally, when they hear someone like AOC speaking and saying we deserve to have universal health care, they're triggered because what happens in Cuba is considered universal health care, but it really isn't, right? So what's happening there is a dictatorship. And as you mentioned, what's happening now with our president even saying that he thinks we should push the election back, like, no, speak. I want to hear you, especially when you take a breath.
It's like every single day. I just don't understand what it's going to take for us to be like, what is it going to take for you to understand that he is the worst human to ever be in office ever? Like, yeah. I have never disliked somebody so much besides Fidel Castro than this man.
Right.
Like, it's so terrifying to me. Like, I always get sad for people that have kids right now because like I'm at an age where I want to have children so bad and I'm like terrified to bring a child into this world.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's so crazy. So you said you got to work with Viola Davis, and
mention it as often as I can. I should and just pass it to people when I meet them.
She's my queen. I stand Viola Davis. I'm not fanatic like that with people, but she's one of the people that I'm like in awe of. I went to the Directors Guild to listen to her speak, and I think she should have been nominated for an Emmy. Like I was like pissed that Viola wasn't nominated for an Emmy. So I was just like, what's this all about? When you still are, growing in your career and you're still making things happen, you're on My Block, you're on the Disney show with Selena's, you're on that Gina Rodriguez created. You're on the show How to Get Away with Murder. You've worked with a bunch of great actors. Who are some of the people that you would like to work with in the future that if you had your druthers, you would say, I want to work with that person?
Besides you?
Well, that's in the works.
I was about to say. I was like, okay. So many people. Like my whole thing is I would actually love to specifically kind of change up the perspective of, Latinos, especially in comedy. Like I would love to be the lead in like a Judd Apatow film. Mm-hmm. Or, you know what I mean? Like work with Ava DuVernay. Like that would be mind blowing to me.
Right.
Besides that, I really want to collaborate more than anything. I want to like create more shows, be on the other side of the camera. Like I would love to direct. So there's a lot of actors that I would just love to direct as well, besides be on a scene with them or be in a scene with them.
And you write as well, right? You've been writing?
I do. Yes.
Yeah. So because I had a conversation with someone about you, and it was funny because the people in her camp love you, and it's a superstar. And they were like, what about this person? And I was like, that's I love her. Like, of course, I would show up I would show up on a set on time every day for her. When I'm late, it's because I don't like you. So
yeah.
I feel that you have always been pretty vocal, right? You're half Cuban and half Mexican.
Mm-hmm.
So you are
colonizers in between there.
Huh?
There's a bunch of colonizers in between there.
Two different sets, right?
There's so, yeah.
And what do you play the most in Hollywood when they ask you, what are you asked to play the most?
Oh, Mexican, 100%. Mexican. Most people don't even think I look Cuban. So, yeah, most people, you're Cuban? No. Right. Yeah.
But isn't it odd when people say stuff like that? Because like you said earlier, Latino or Latinx is an ethnicity. And we have Asian Latinx people. We have Black Latinx people.
And that's so fucking beautiful. Like, why are we just like, as soon as it's like different, we're like, no. It's like, it's so baffling to me. Like what, like they don't like us all the same. Like, you know what I mean? You're white or you're other. So why are we gonna like, I don't know. I could talk about it all day. It pisses me off.
Did you go out in March?
This was for you.
Oh, Oh, the body butters. That would be Tish.
I had to tell you this before we were done. I'm sorry.
And you know what's funny? I'm gonna plug it as well. So Body Butters is a company that is black owned. It's owned by a black woman, Tish, and who is my friend. She does like my graphics, but it is
a YouTube channel.
it's amazing. It is good. She has all different flavors. She has watermelon, and there's strawberry, and what's that one?
This is the caramel apple. Like
caramel apple with a spoon. The butter is my favorite. The butter is my favorite. And you supported her.
Oh, yeah.
The banana is my favorite. You supported her. You saw it. You supported her. You know, I've been watching you, and it's like when I go to your page, I'm like, she is one of those people that is always uplifting the names of others. You know, and I really appreciate that. I want to talk to you about On My Block, because On My Block is a show that, you know, my my stepdaughter was like, "You watch that too?" And I was like, "I love that show."
Yes, I do.
You know, I know the whole show. Tell me about that, how that came to be for you, and how you ended up on this set. That I love the show, because the show, well, I'll talk about that later, but tell me how you ended up on this show.
Well, first of all, thank you for saying what you said about me, because I really do try to, one of the things that I think is most important is, especially in the movement, is to lead with positivity, and to, like, if we, you know, help to elevate other people's voices, that to me is like the best sign of resistance, you know, just thriving. So thank you. I really appreciate that. And then On My Block journey is hilarious, because I didn't actually get the audition at all. Because she was 14 and I'm like 16, you know? They were like, maybe we don't put her in here for that. But my friend Victoria Morales was going on, and she's an incredible Latina actress as well. And she read Jasmine, and she was like, "Girl, this is not me, this is you." And I was like, "What?" So I read this pilot, and I just fell in love with each one of these characters. And it was so funny to me, because they would have all been side characters in someone else's show.
Yes, absolutely.
We would have each been a white person's friend on everyone else's show. And I was just so blown away with, you know, just the storytelling and their relationship, and that it was a black and brown show. And I love that, because you don't see us being friends with each other, you know?
Yeah.
So that meant a lot to me. So I got the audition, but at the same time, after Liv and Maddie, after Liv and Maddie and Betch, which is an all-female sketch group that I was in as well, did a lot of improv. That's where I really started to write. I started getting, you know, kind of more comfortable in my power, and know that improv is something I love to do. And I started seeing auditions differently. Like, when I go into an audition, I try not to cast it before I go in. I feel like a lot of actors do that. Like, they're like, "Oh, they're going to want this. They're going to want me to be this way." And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be how I want to play it. Like, if I got this part, this is the part that I would want to play for the next however many years this series goes for. So I went in and improv'd a lot, and they actually loved it, thank God. And we're so encouraging of it. And that kind of, you know, really, you know, had me fall back in love with improv, and like getting the show has been like such a great eye opener to just trust your gut, and then also lead with, you know, what you are more, you know, I say, you know, every 10 seconds, lead with your gut. If this is who, you know, you want to play, if this is how you want to do it, then do it. Don't try and be somebody else in there.
Right. So that show I love because of what you said. It is a black and brown show. Those kids remind me of me when I was a kid. I grew up in the hood, but I was always very smart, as many of us in the hood are. Because they, you know, because when you see the kids in the hood on television, we're always gang members. And even when we're gang members, that doesn't mean we're dumb. Sometimes we're just surviving. But that show, the conversations are so elevated. You know, you got these kids talking about things from a perspective of intelligence and fullness. So that world, you know, when I read the script, because I auditioned for Monse's mother, and I didn't get it. And so when that bitch died, I was like, yes, bitch, she's dead. That's what
the same thing I do. If like I don't book it, I'm like, I'm not watching it.
I was like, she died. Anyway, it didn't last that long. But it was funny when I read the script. I was like, whoa, like, you're talking about areas in the country where there are many of us in marginalized communities who are not necessarily privileged with having the best schools and live in the best neighborhoods, but are still able to make it in spite of. So you end up in this world, and you guys, when you read those scripts, sometimes do you say, do you think like, wow, we are really having some elevated conversations to be 14 and 15 years old?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't think at 14 I would also ever have like a masturbation conversation with my friends.
No,
they're all about it. And I'm like, okay. I peed in a sink season 1. Like,
yeah, I remember.
Not too many people that just do that. But,
But I think in tackling these issues, we're able to deter a lot of things from happening. Because if you're able to talk about sex with people who are 14 and 15, then you can, alleviate not just pregnancy, but STDs and stuff like that. And, we saw that you see the Monse having a sexual relationship with her boyfriend, and you falling in love with Ruby, and the whole thing, which is my favorite couple.
Oh, thank you. You ship us.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I love is that Monse is Afro Latina on the show.
Right.
She has a Black father and a Latina mother, and the whole spectrum is represented on the show. There's a dark-skinned Black person on the show that's speaking and not a clown, right?
And there could always be more.
So you said it though. You said everyone on that show would be the best friend of a white person on another show.
Mm-hmm. And
so, and what?
And some of us have been. I've been at a time.
You came from Disney, right?
Yes. Well, that was probably my biggest break up until On My Block. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know. I know that I get Disney and Nickelodeon confused at this point because I'm so far away from it.
We're fighting.
No, I didn't know that.
Disney, Nickelodeon. No, it's a joke that
I was just gonna say them too. I mean, everybody.
I have friends from Nickelodeon too that literally were in my wedding. But like that's the thing where it's like, no, you're Disney. You can't be friends with Nickelodeon. It's like a joke. I'm not a comedian. You are. I'm just here.
No, you're hella funny. I watch that show sometimes, and I'm like, yo, she really went there. Like you. How much of the show is you improvising?
Ooh, that's a hard thing to say. I would say like. Oh, I don't want to say because I don't know also like how much they viewed, and then it all becomes kind of blurred because sometimes you say these things in the table reads and then they get in the script, and it kind of like blurs. You're like, did I? You know what I mean? But some of it also too is like our directors and our writers just yelling things at me, like try this, like. So I mean, it's a good balance. But no, we do have great writers. I don't want to sit here and say that like I can't take all the credit for that at all.
No, but you use a lot of your physicality in your comedy, and you're very open to the comedy in whichever way you can give it, which is, a lesson that I like to learn because sometimes I can be really stiff when I'm doing my stand-up. So when you're doing, do you take your chances and you say, I'm going to do this?
Yeah. I think it also is like part of the inner Jasmine in me, where I'm like, if I do a song and dance, you won't see that I'm actually not good at any of this.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think it's also like a defense mechanism. Yeah, it's something that I work like. I did when the camera comes on, I definitely come on. Like it's something that, like even if I'm dead tired, like that is like that's a performer in you. So I feel like, especially if a joke's not working, I'm like, okay, well maybe if I throw myself on the ground.
I love when you do stuff like that. When you're on the windowsill, like all the stuff that you do, it makes me laugh because I'm like, what's funny is that only for people of color is that considered anything that people would criticize, right? Because when Will Ferrell does that, he's a genius, right? When Jim Carrey does that, he's a brilliant. They're like, oh, he's so funny. And so when we do it, it's like, look at not just annoying, but like that's buffoonery, or that's what we cannot express ourselves wholly because we have so much pressure, so much social pressure, because we represent everybody because we lack representation in media, right? So but when you do stuff like that, I'm like, because I love Jim Carrey, right? So I'm like, that's the stuff that makes me laugh,
But
how
that's
much.
also a conversation though, because there have been times where even like a good example, I think it's season one where I say I got the egg booty coughs. There was a conversation where I got a note of maybe lifting my leg too to show it, and I was like, if I'm embarrassed by this, I'm not going to lift my leg. And if I'm confident about it, that's one thing. But if you want me to be like, you know what I mean? Like that to me is that balance where I'm ready to be funny and outlandish and crazy. It just has to make sense. I'm still at the end of the day a human being, and I never want to like not be Jasmine for a joke.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So how much pressure did you feel going from like the Disney reality super good kid, clean, whatever, to a show where you're talking about sex and you're talking about gangs and you're talking about drugs? Because a lot of the Disney kids fall into these, the dramas of the post Disney dramas. Did you feel any of that?
No, and I think it's because I'm 130 years old. I feel like that's probably, did I see like, especially with social media, because I think like the height of social media was literally happening with like Instagram when Liv and Maddie started. I even saw how attached to it I was getting, and then reading every comment and doing this. And I'm like, Jessica, you're a grown woman. Like, you really need to, like, I understand like you're playing a child and like, whatever. And it's part of your job to stay on social media. But like, you cannot be this sensitive over these comments that are from someone who's 12 years old. Like, you know what I mean? So when I came out of Liv and Maddie, I was more like, please let me work again. It wasn't necessarily like I want to break out of this mold. I think like I know what it's like to not have that phone ring. Like I waited tables for the 2.5 seasons of Liv and Maddie. Like I just know what it's like not to work. So I wasn't going to necessarily be too picky about what was coming next. But then when this came to be, I was like, okay, hopefully this is mine. But I wasn't about branching out of Willow at all.
You made it yours, and you are a breakout of the show, right? You're like one of the favorites. People love you.
I tell people as possible. I just try people believe that.
No, do you feel it though? Do you feel it from?
I mean, I get really beautiful messages and responses from fans, and that means everything to me. I'm also such a fan of the show that like I watch their performances, especially if I'm not in them, and am a fan, especially because I don't work with Julio a lot. So getting to watch his transformation with Spooky is so incredible. And then he's going to be in Selena too. So it's like, I'm so much of a fan of the show that like, it doesn't.
Is the show coming back?
Our show? We have no idea.
Oh, you don't know? I wasn't trying to trick you. I didn't know. I was just not clear. Like,
no, I thought you meant Selena. I was like, oh, I don't know.
No, I meant On My Block.
Yeah, no idea.
Y'all don't, but it hasn't been canceled. So, but no, it can't be. I will have a hard time dealing with life.
You have a hard time.
I know more than you, because that's your job. But I would be like, they better not. These articulate ass kids having these conversations, tackling real life issues, with comedy being on the backdrop of it all is just really fun. There's also, the other thing is that you see older Latinos on the show, right? There's a grandmother character on the show who's very like, I love her. She is so funny. And you think like you watch it and you're like, the ageism right now in Hollywood is so disgusting that they eliminate the older people from the shows. And it's just so fun to watch. So what do you do? Go ahead. No.
Well, I was gonna say, but that's so important when you're telling Black and brown stories. Like, we don't just say, okay, our grandparents are 50, bye. Like, we are, like, we're a family culture. Like, and that's like, that would be, I would think, untruthful at telling a lot of our stories. Not all of them. I don't want to generalize, but for the most part, I feel like that's our grandparents are very important to us.
Yeah, no, I did. That's what I did my last set that I did, that I posted, was about how we love our grandmothers. Like, we keep them around until they leave. They decide to leave, right? We don't put our grandparents and we don't lock them up. We're like, no, you just got to do, you having sex and you're like, but my grandmother's in the other room.
My mother lives with me. She lives with me.
Your grandmother lives with you.
She did before she passed away. Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. But my mother, yeah, I've only not lived with my mom for a year when I moved out here. That was it.
Because you're married.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, listen, we're a package deal.
Oh, that's beautiful. So tell me what you're working on now.
Ooh, well, I'm in the middle of developing my own something. And it's actually so exciting because I feel like I've made some really good decisions. Mm-hmm. So that's the whole business side of what we do is so not talked about. And especially in my position, like I am new to everything, especially when it comes to writing professionally.
Right.
So just in the middle of developing and hopefully come up with a show that's going to be a really good step in the right direction when it comes to celebrating all different kinds of Latinos in our stories, especially leading their own stories. I'm not, and you said something about this yesterday, I think, or maybe it was a video that you did today, and it was about like narcissism. And I think that's so important because when we're given opportunities, it doesn't necessarily need to just be us. Right. So that's why, the show that I'm developing is very much an ensemble and something that, like, if I'm not in episodes, great. Like, it's right. Not, it's something that I'm more excited about building something that could really show representation and how much that matters.
That's exactly how I feel. I wanted to ask you, as we talk about this stuff, with all of the things that are happening with the Emmy, people fighting, people going back and forth, what do you think are some of the solutions to fill these voids in Hollywood when it comes to people of color, Black and brown and indigenous people?
Well, first of all, I think that we need to know when being an ally, that word is such a white word, but being that it has to do with you shutting up and listening. And also, it's all about the creative end, because I think so many of these opportunities aren't happening. Besides that, the money's not being put there. I think it has everything to do with us unifying and specifically elevating each other's voices instead of looking where we can insert ourselves, if that makes sense, especially when it comes to stories we haven't seen at all.
Right.
But I'm very, very aware of the fact that you have seen more Latin shows of people that look like me than anyone else. It's me or lighter.
Yeah.
And that's not okay. And also, I think for people who look like me, people are scared to feel like they've done something wrong. And it just doesn't make sense to me about learning. If you did something wrong, like, be open to be educated about something. You don't have to be defensive. Right. When somebody's explaining to you that they're hurt or they've been, misrepresented, like, how is that something to be defensive over and not like, I need to support? How do I make sure this person doesn't feel like this anymore?
Right.
And I think that's tough too, because that's, again, you feel like you have to speak for everyone, but that's not the case if you're giving a platform for other people to share their stories as well, I think. But how do we go about it? I don't know, because like my ass is just, you tell me where to stand, I say the lines you gave me. Yeah. I'm trying to branch out of that. But I'm just hopeful that when I'm given more responsibility and given more, power, that we put it in the right places. And you have to be okay with being wrong. That's it.
That's right. So when we do talk about the using your platforms, and you say that it's important, for people to use their platforms, and you see people who have bigger platforms than you that don't.
What?
But sometimes though, I feel like they put the microphone in front of the wrong faces.
Yeah.
Right. And then you hear people saying some things and then they trend, and, it's like when Kanye says something crazy and then people go crazy and they're like, look, Black people, look what Kanye said, as if Kanye West is the Martin Luther King of today. Like, we have to put people in their proper places. Latin people are no different. When we have, just because somebody's famous doesn't mean they're our representatives. And
no, just don't think that. Like, especially with me, listen, I am an expert in absolutely fucking nothing. Like, nothing. I am just, at the end of the day, like, trying to like, trying to leave this world better than I got it, and that's not necessarily like I need a gold star for that, but it's also like I don't know. I'll go off on a tangent, but
please do though. It's okay.
Like we just as an actor, like that, just because you recognize my face doesn't mean you should think I can lead you anywhere, and I'm not speaking for anyone else but myself and anyone else's journey and what they feel like they can do. But for me, at least, I know a lot recently, especially with that op-ed, I'm getting asked to do a lot of lives about mental health. And I am not an expert in mental health. And that puts me in a very uncomfortable position where I never want to give the wrong information out, Right. So I always try to lead with, I am such an advocate for mental health, but I am not an expert by any means.
Yeah.
Like God knows what's going on in here. I should probably.
I know. I'm waiting on my therapist to call me back.
Right? But, get off the live.
I'm triggered as we speak. No, because I think it's important for us to say stuff like that because, like not some people trending on Twitter, they're going off. People are mad because this person said that. And I'm like, just because somebody's famous doesn't mean they're smart. Just because somebody's famous doesn't mean that they're informed or know what they're talking about.
Or an activist.
Yes.
I did something recently where they were like, activist. I was like, oh my God, do not call me an activist. Like, I know activists. Do not just throw that, under my name because I retweeted something. Like, for the love of God, there are people that are actually doing the work every single minute of every day.
Yeah.
Like, I just, that makes me so uncomfortable,
Are there any names of certain people who are in the activism space who you like to elevate right now?
You're actually going to be speaking to her. Ashley Marie Preston is my girl. Like, I have learned so much from her, and she will tell you where the best vegan food is in LA, by the way, or probably anywhere. But I have learned so much from her, and I feel like, I would lead her anywhere. And her #YouAreEssential campaign is incredible. I did a video for them a while back, but like, she's doing incredible work every single day.
Yeah, she's going to be on tomorrow, actually.
Is it tomorrow?
Yeah, she'll be on tomorrow with
on Friday.
Said.
I love that too.
Yeah, and then there are 4 people that are going to be here tomorrow, and they're going to speak about. I'm just going to be here as a facilitator and let them have their conversation and express and explain, because a lot of times we like to. Like you said, we don't get out of the way and let people just tell their stories.
Been there.
Yeah.
I did a podcast, Afro-Latina podcast, where we were talking about Black Lives Matter. And the first thing I asked was like, I just want to make sure that there's more Afro-Latinas than non-Afro-Latinas. And that was the case, thank God. But we still found a way to insert ourselves a few times. And I was just like, why the fuck do we do that? Like, I had to go, okay. Like, I said one thing and I felt too much. I was like, girl, if you don't just shut up right now, like, it's so weird. And that's the thing, is we got to check ourselves. And there's nothing wrong with being wrong.
Right.
Like, that's what I feel like is so important. Like, we have to normalize that.
Yeah, I think, when you have a certain level of privilege, it extends to everything, right? It doesn't even when it comes to your own activism, right? You're still like, well, and I have had Afro-Latinos on the show. I've had Afro-Latino conversations, and I led the conversation with La Gata, who's a reggaeton artist from Panama, who's a dark-skinned Black woman, and she came and she spoke on the show. And then the following week, I had Julissa from Gente Fied, and I had Gabriel del Orbe and Sasha Merci, because I was talking about Afro-Latinidad within the world of social media, and people were upset because nobody on the show that day was dark skinned. And it wasn't because I'm a colorist. It was because I specifically wanted those 3 people on the show because I was talking about something specific with their journeys. But people don't don't understand that, we cannot speak on behalf of others. I'm Afro-Latina. I worship Celia Cruz. I go to sleep to watching her every night. But I will never know what the experiences have been of a dark-skinned Afro-Latina woman or a dark-skinned woman, period, right? But I still will use my platform and my privilege to speak to it when they're not present, because somebody's got to speak about it if they're not there, right? Until I'm powerful enough to demand that they are there, I'm going to use my voice to make sure that they're there in one way or the other. And you do that a lot. What do you feel like a lot of your experiences is what's fueled you to say, I want to be more active in this space of, you're speak up for Breonna Taylor. You're always using your platform to remind people that people are suffering. How much of your own personal experience fuels that?
I think if excuse me. I think I've been very privileged. Growing up, I never lived in fear of anything. It really took that day that I wrote about with my mom when she got pulled over, and I just saw a very different version of my mom who was just terrified, and she's never been terrified of anything. And then remembering and having her, kind of reopen that trauma of being arrested when she was trying to leave Cuba at 8 years old with the rest of my family, and being separated from her family. And again, even learning in that, just the sacrifices that other people have made for me to be here and to feel the way that I do and feel safe, excuse me, doesn't make me uncomfortable, but pushes me to feel uncomfortable, because I don't want to feel like I can benefit from Black culture, because I do. I can't, be there for my friends who suffer from this kind of treatment and live in this fear every single day, and then be like, oh, well, you know what I mean? And not try and remind myself that this is happening every single day. It might not be happening to me, but that doesn't mean it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that it shouldn't matter to you. I think, again, it's just about being a good person and realizing that, like, we're not free until we're all free.
That's right.
Like, it might be today that we're going after this group of people, but tomorrow will be this group of people, and then the next it will be you. And if that's how you have to look at it to care about the people before you, I mean, that's its own issues. But like, it drives me, because as much as I love being an artist because I care about people, I care about stories, I care about emotion, and I just don't care about people that just look like me. I think it's.
And you know what's funny? The funny thing is, because I would always say they're coming for you next, but the truth is they're coming for us all right now. That they just have, it's just it's just broken up into different places where, well, they have the Mexican or the Central American babies in the cages. They have, people in prison are predominantly Black and brown. The school to prison pipeline, and then you look at the military, because I go entertain the troops. Majority of those people are, young and Black and brown, right? And they go over and they serve, and then they come back and they get pulled over and beat up by the cops. So when we have these conversations, it's like we have to have a holistic look at this, because you have specific experiences, because your mother comes from Cuba, and the story that you wrote was about mental health, but it was also about the fear of police. And because that's a universal issue, that's not just a domestic issue,
Right.
And I wanted you to speak to that a little bit for the people who didn't read the article.
Well, I kind of explained a little bit what happened, but she, the trauma of getting pulled over by the police for her was that she got taken back to being 8 years old and being bodily searched and interrogated at 8 years old and put in a cell. She was in jail for 6 weeks with my grandmother and some other families that were trying to escape. And she saw the 3 men that tried to help her and my family escape get executed in front of her at 8 years old. And then my grandfather had to stay in jail for 2 years after that. So they were separated for a very long time. With that, it's hard for me, because it's like I see so much of why she lived her life after that the way that she has. Like, she's so strong, but at the same time, she married my father, who's a police officer. And I feel like that was because she had a false sense of security with that. And that's like that I was already like red flag. But she's always gotten very uncomfortable around police. And then, I was going to go somewhere with this, and her trauma just kind of like hit me in the face. Sorry, what was the real?
No, I was just going to say that when I was just asking you to talk about the story of your mother with regards to her fears of police based on her own experiences, to just say that while we fight for it here in America, you see videos of police brutality now on video and you don't know where they're from because you're like,
right. And it's also very triggering to my mom too, because that's what she's used to seeing. I mean, and then so many people her age are used to also seeing that in this country. So it's terrifying that we have the same tactics are being used. Like nothing, like really nothing has changed. And I'm really hopeful that this won't just be another moment. I think that's another reason why I constantly post, is because I feel like, even I found myself doing it, like posting a picture of myself. And then I was like, what? Who gives a fuck about what you look like? Like, really? Like, what is this? And I know that's a balance, and you should, like, you know, it's still self-care, and there's no reason that you shouldn't love yourself.
right.
But I still want to keep posting and keep talking, because this isn't going to go away. And I think that a lot of people are hoping that it goes away.
Yeah, no, they want it to go away. They want the moment to pass so that we can get back to the way it used to be. What they don't realize that the way it used to be and the way it is now has neither been good for people of color.
No, you just are aware of it now because there's more videos of it now, and you're still finding excuses for why it's okay. People are still finding justifications for things, and it's just like, again, like, what is it going to take?
Yes. Oh, I love you so much. You're just such a great human being. So you're developing your own show, but you stay working.
I like using the word development because it sounds like I've gotten really far.
Oh no, I know. Development. You know what? The funny thing is, like, when my announcement went out and people were like, congratulations. And I was like, don't congratulate me until you see me on television more than once. Like, if you see 2 episodes of my show, then you can congratulate me for having 2 episodes on TV. And even still, that doesn't even guarantee you a season.
Because it's so tough. Like, you got to be able to celebrate something, because it took so long for you to even get to that point. Like, people don't understand.
They don't. And you know, people will send me messages and say, why are you talking about this right now when we have so many other things to be worried about? And I'm like, you don't understand how important it is for the images that go out in media, you know?
And you know what? It's so funny that you say that, because I had an incredible colorism conversation with my own mom, because my mom is like redhead freckles, you know? And I was like, you had such a horrible time, especially like, because she went to high school in Jersey. And she was like, you know, how bad they treated her there. And I was like, now imagine, because you were able to blend in if you didn't open your mouth, Mom.
That's right.
There's a lot of people that don't get to do that. And I having that conversation with her was the first time that she was like, I didn't think about it that way. And I was just like, it's so interesting to just see, like, oh shit. You know, because I feel like it's so easy to be like, we've been through it. And it's not that you haven't, but you can't compare yourself to, you know what I mean? There's certain things that there's no reason to. We should be in each other's side, supporting each other, instead of being like, well, I had it worse than you, I swear to God.
Oh yeah, the oppression Olympics.
Yeah, like that's not it. We should like be supporting each other 100%.
Well, I live by my mantra. One of my mantras is that you don't get to invalidate other people's struggle because it doesn't look like yours.
No.
And everybody's, you know, I can't tell a white rape victim that her rape wasn't real because I'm not white, because she's not a person of color, you know, but you still have to step aside and understand that the darker you get, the harder it gets for you in this country and around the world, because racism too is a global issue. And that's why this show for me is special, because I get to bring on whoever I want. I don't have, people telling me who to talk to and who not to talk to. The conversations are, they're just uncensored. And, I think you're one of the people that I like because I like who you are. I love you as an artist, but I just like who you are and what you stand for. So I think, it's exciting to see what's next for you.
You know what? I'm excited about that too, to be honest. But I think it's like some of that excitement has to do with like being on a bigger mission than yourself. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like that yeah, exactly. I think that has a lot to do with it. I feel like there's like more of a fearlessness because you know you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You know.
So, yeah, for me, it's about like people say, hey, like Tiffany has this amazing career, and people are like, do you want to, you want to be the Latinx Tiffany Haddish? And I'm like, no, I want to be Aida Rodriguez. But
comedies are nowhere near each other. You're very different, incredible comedians. Like,
yeah, we're very, and my dream is to create a world. I want to, like Shondaland she has a world. And I want to create a world where there are people that look like you, me, and all the way to Viola Davis creating, and telling the stories of all of us, right? And so for me, that's more important than me being, hey guys. So I just think it's very, that's what I work for daily. And I'm just happy that you're in my orbit because I can't wait, to work with you. People can watch you right now on my blog.
Yes.
On
Netflix.
you're on Disney Plus.
I am on Disney Plus, Diary of Future President.
Future President. And then if you got on ABC, you can catch How to Get Away with Murder.
Season 5.
She's on season 5. And anything else? Did I miss anything?
No, I don't think so. Oh God.
I was trying to trick you there. I was going to see if you would slip and just say something else that we didn't know.
I booked a huge movie.
You will. You can and you will.
Batman. I'm gonna drop that information right here, right now.
Say that again.
I'm the new Batman.
I
was told not to say anything, but I am the new Batman.
All the white guys in Hollywood right now are.
They're like, yeah, her eyebrows make a bat symbol. Probably.
They're canceling you on Twitter because white men are like, we can't get a job. I'm like, you never lost your jobs.
I will pin that tweet.
You never lost your jobs. You got fired because you're a rapist, not because you're white. So that's different. Me Too got rid of you because you didn't know how to keep it in your pants. You didn't get fired because you were white. Shut it up. Anyway, I wanted to say thank you for coming because I love you and I think you're great. And I hope you come back. And whenever you want to come talk some smack with me, please. The people who support this show, they really are like the G's. Like I have a village, the people.
Like you really, really do. Like you have a really good crew that follow you and watch you all the time.
I love it. I may not have 10 million followers, but the followers that I have, they show up for me, and they're also smart and they're caring and they're intelligent and they're empaths. So for me, that's important. But I just wanted to say thank you for coming and making my little dream come true because I'm fascinated with your character, Jasmine. I tell you that I'll send you messages and I'm like, I just love you because, she reminds me, I don't ever look at the show and say, that's Mexican, that's Puerto Rican, that's Cuban, right? I look at the show and say, I know these people.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for people to get to the point where they create shows of Black and brown people who are human beings who happen to be Black and brown instead of shows that are like, this is what Black people do when they get angry. They all scream, it's exhausting.
Yeah, no, it really, really is. Like,
so tell people where they can find you online.
Oh, I was about to say my house. Don't come here.
No.
My Instagram is at Jess_M_Garcia, super fancy. And my Twitter is at Jess Marie Garcia. And I TikTok, but don't follow me there. I don't really do much there. Don't worry about that.
Stop giving Chinese people your information.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing, right? Is that a thing? I read about it and I was like, is this real? Like, is anything real? Like, who do I believe? I already deleted my Facebook. I have like a sticker that covers my webcam when I'm not talking to people.
You deleted your Facebook?
Yeah. I was like, because like they'll find all your information on that too.
Yeah, people have been. I know people.
I don't care about people that I knew when I was like in middle school. Like Facebook was just like, be friends with this person. I was like, no, I've been avoiding them my whole life.
People are gonna say they're gonna go now watch on my block. So
thank you.
Yeah, you're great.
season 4, so we might need more views.
Oh man, it's gonna get renewed. The Santos just told me. Thank you so much for being here. I love you.
Thank you. I love you. And literally any time. And please add me to anything you need. Like, I'm here to support you as much as I can.
Same. I'll come for you. All right. Bye-bye, mommy. Thank you.
I don't know how to